The pipe wrench slipped in my hand, cold water spraying across my face like a slap I should have seen coming. Midnight. Kitchen floor, 38 years old, and here I was, lying under a sink that had been leaking for 3 weeks, because Rachel kept saying she'd handle it, which in our marriage had become code for, you'll eventually do it yourself. I heard the front door open. Her heels clicked across the hardwood I'd refinished last summer, each step precise and measured. Lawyer steps. She'd been practicing them ever since she passed the bar exam 2 months ago. "David," she called out, not even bothering to check where I was, "we need to talk." I wiped my face with my sleeve and slid out from under the sink. She stood in the kitchen doorway, still in her work clothes, navy suit, white blouse, hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. In her hand was a manila envelope. "Let me guess," I said, standing up and tossing the wrench into my toolbox. "You finally decided to fix the sink yourself?" She didn't smile. Rachel used to laugh at my jokes. That was back when I was the guy putting her through law school, working 60-hour weeks at the electronics shop I'd built from nothing, making sure she had everything she needed to chase her dream. "I'm filing for divorce," she said, setting the envelope on the counter. "The papers are ready. I'd appreciate it if you'd sign them without making this difficult." I stared at her, not because I was shocked. I'd felt this coming for months, the way you feel a storm building even when the sky's still blue. No, I stared because of how she said it, like she was informing me of a schedule change, like I was a client, not the man who'd sacrificed his own engineering career so she could have hers. "Without making this difficult," I repeated. "That's rich. David, please. We both know this hasn't been working for a long time." "We both know?" I laughed, a sound that came out harsher than I intended. "Rachel, I've been working my ass off while I what? Built a career? Became something?" Her voice went cold, that courtroom voice she'd been perfecting. "I don't need you anymore, David. I have my license. I have my own income. I can stand on my own 2 feet." There it was. The truth, naked and ugly. I don't need you anymore. "So that's it? 8 years of marriage, and you're done because you finally don't need me?" She picked up her purse from the counter. "I'll be staying at a hotel tonight. My lawyer will be in touch about the division of assets. Please sign the papers." She turned to leave. "Rachel." My voice stopped her. "Just tell me one thing. Is there someone else?" She didn't turn around. "Does it matter?" "Yeah," I said. "It actually does." "No, David, there's no one else. There's just me, finally free to live my own life." The door closed behind her with a soft click that somehow sounded louder than a slam. I stood there in my kitchen, water still dripping from my shirt, and looked at the manila envelope. 8 years. I'd given up a job at a promising tech startup to keep the electronics shop running because it had flexible hours. I'd worked weekends and holidays so Rachel could study. I'd eaten ramen for dinner so she could have the good coffee she needed to stay awake for bar prep. And now I was holding divorce papers like a pink slip from a job I didn't even know I was bad at. I opened the envelope. The papers were thorough. Rachel had always been thorough. Division of assets, spousal support. She wasn't asking for much, which should have made me feel better, but somehow made it worse. She didn't need anything from me. Not my money, not my support, not even my love. I was obsolete. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at those papers, and something cold settled into my chest. Not heartbreak. That would come later. This was something else. Something calculating. 3 days later, I found the phone. Rachel had come by to pick up some of her things. She was staying with her best friend Jessica, she said, just until she found her own place. I helped her carry boxes to her car, playing the role of the understanding, soon-to-be ex-husband. It wasn't hard. I'd been playing roles in this marriage for years. She left her purse on the counter while she used the bathroom. I wasn't snooping. At least, that's what I told myself. I was just moving it so I could wipe down the counter. That's when I felt it. The weight was wrong, too heavy. I opened it. 2 phones. Her regular iPhone, and a cheap Android burner. My hands moved before my brain caught up. I opened the Android. No password. She'd been careless, probably drunk on her newfound freedom. The text messages loaded. Ethan. Can't wait to celebrate with you tonight. Finally, no more sneaking around. Rachel. I know. I can't believe I'm finally free. David signed the papers, right? Ethan. Good. You deserve better than that loser. Come by my place at 8. I'll have champagne waiting. Rachel. Your place? Is that safe? Ethan. Relax. I'm a partner at the firm. No one questions where I am or who I'm with. Besides, we've been doing this for 6 months. If anyone was going to find out, they would have by now. 6 months. I scrolled up. The The messages went back further. Much further. They'd started before she'd even taken the bar exam. While I was helping her study, making flashcards, quizzing her on constitutional law, she was texting her mentor at the law firm about how excited she was to finally be with him. I heard the bathroom door open. I closed the phone, put it back in her purse, and went back to wiping the counter. "Thanks for being so understanding about this," Rachel said, grabbing her purse. "I know it's not easy." I smiled. "Hey, you said it yourself. You don't need me anymore." She left. I stood there, dish towel in hand, and felt something shift inside me. The cold thing in my chest cracked open, and what came out wasn't grief or anger. It was clarity. Rachel thought she was 3 moves ahead, planning her exit while keeping me in the dark. But she'd made a mistake. She'd underestimated me. She'd forgotten that before I became the guy who fixed sinks and ran a small electronics shop, I'd been an engineer. I'd been the guy who solved problems, who thought 10 steps ahead, who built systems from nothing. She wanted to play chess? Fine. But she'd just put her king in check without even knowing the game had started. The Riverside boxing gym smelled like sweat, leather, and honest work. It was the only place in this godforsaken city where things made sense. You hit something, it hit back. Simple. Fair. I'd been coming here for years, ever since I realized that running a small business meant dealing with enough frustration to either start drinking or start punching things. I'd chosen punching. Sam Miller, stood by the heavy bag, watching me work. Sam was 65, built like a fire hydrant, with hands that looked like they'd been carved from oak. He'd been a semi-pro boxer in his youth before a bad knee ended his career. Now he ran this gym and dispensed wisdom to idiots like me who thought hitting things would solve their problems. "You're dropping your right," he said, "and you're telegraphing your jabs." I threw another combination, feeling the impact travel up my arms. "Yeah, well, I'm not exactly training for a title fight." "No, you're training like a man who wants to hit something that ain't a bag." Sam walked over, stopped the bag from swinging. "You gonna tell me what's eating you, or do I have to guess?" I unwrapped my hands, breathing hard. "Rachel's leaving me." "I know, whole town knows. Doris at the diner told me yesterday." Sam grabbed a towel, tossed it to me. Also heard there might be more to the story. Small towns. Even in a city of 200,000, everyone knew everyone's business. The Midwest didn't believe in privacy. "There's another guy," I said. "Ethan Price, partner at her law firm." Sam nodded slowly. "The pretty boy with the BMW? That's him?" "And you found out how?" I told him about the phone. Sam listened without interrupting, which was one of the things I appreciated about him. He didn't offer sympathy or platitudes. He just listened. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "So what are you going to do?" "I don't know yet." "Bullshit. You got that look in your eye. The one you get when you're fixing something complicated." Sam crossed his arms. "I've known you 5 years, David. I've seen you take apart a whole security system and put it back together just to prove you could. You're not the type to just roll over." "What am I supposed to do? Beat him up? That gets me arrested and makes me the bad guy." "Who said anything about beating him up?" Sam's eyes crinkled. "You're thinking too small. You want revenge? Don't fight where they expect. Make 'em bleed in their own ring." "Their own ring?" "She's a lawyer now, right? That whole world is about reputation, appearances. And this Ethan guy, he's a partner. He's got more to lose than you do." Sam picked up a jump rope, started working it with the easy rhythm of someone who'd done it 10,000 times. "You want to hurt them? Don't use your fists. Use your head." I watched him jump, the rope whistling through the air. "You're saying I should get smart about this." "I'm saying you should remember who you are. You built a business from nothing. You're the guy who figures things out." Sam stopped jumping, looked at me directly. "They think you're just the loser husband who got left behind. Prove them wrong." That night, I sat in my shop. Miller Electronics, the sign said, though I'd been thinking about changing it to something that sounded less like a repair shop and more like a real business. The place was empty, just me and the hum of equipment, the smell of solder and circuit boards. I opened my laptop and started researching. Ethan Price, 40 years old, partner at Hartley & Associates, one of the bigger law firms in the city, specialized in corporate law, drove a BMW 7 Series, lived in a renovated mansion in the historic district, never married, no kids. His social media was carefully curated, photos of him at charity events, golf tournaments, firm parties. Always impeccably dressed, always with that smile that didn't quite reach his eyes, the smile of a man who'd learned to look trustworthy while being anything but. I found his car in one of the photos. License plate visible. I wrote it down. Then I started looking into Rachel's new life. Her LinkedIn said she just made junior associate at Hartley and Associates. Her Facebook was more personal. Photos with Jessica, her best friend since college. Jessica Thornton, also a lawyer, working at a different firm. The two of them at bars, at brunches, living their best lives. In some of the recent photos, I could see Ethan in the background, always just at the edge of the frame, like they were being careful. But not careful enough. I pulled up Google Maps and started tracking locations. The hotel Rachel said she was staying at. The Riverside Inn, nice place, expensive. I checked their parking lot on Street View. Sure enough, there was Ethan's BMW in one of the photos, time-stamped from 2 weeks ago. They'd been careless, arrogant. They thought I was too stupid or too beaten down to notice. Big mistake. I spent the next 3 hours building a timeline. Every photo, every check-in, every public appearance. I cross-referenced Rachel's calendar, which she'd never bothered to password protect on our shared computer, with Ethan's social media. The overlap was damning. Bar association mixer. They were both there. Firm holiday party. Together in the background of multiple photos. Weekend conference in Chicago. Rachel had told me it was mandatory. Ethan's Instagram showed him at the same hotel. 6 months of lies, all documented in digital breadcrumbs they'd left because they thought no one was looking. I saved everything to an encrypted drive. Then I started planning. Sam was right. I needed to fight in their ring. But first, I needed to understand the rules. The Riverside Inn sat on the waterfront, all glass and steel and pretension, valet parking, doormen in uniforms, the kind of place that made you feel poor just by looking at it. Rachel and I had stayed here once for our anniversary 3 years ago. I'd saved for months to afford it. Now she was here with Ethan on his dime. It was 11 p.m. on a Thursday. I sat in my truck across the street watching the parking lot. Ethan's BMW was there, right where I knew it would be. He'd posted an Instagram story 2 hours ago. Dinner at the hotel restaurant. A photo of a steak that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. I'd spent the last week planning this. Not the violence. I wasn't going to touch him, wasn't going to give them that satisfaction. No, this was about sending a message. I waited until midnight, until the valet had gone inside and the lot was quiet. Then I got out of my truck, pulled my hood up, and walked across the street. The BMW sat under a light, gleaming and perfect. Ethan took care of his toys. This car probably cost more than I'd made in the last 2 years. I pulled out the glass breaker I'd bought at a hardware store, cash, no trail, and stood there for a moment, feeling the weight of it in my hand. This was it, the point of no return. Once I did this, I was committing to a path that might destroy me as thoroughly as it destroyed them. But then I thought about Rachel's face when she'd handed me those divorce papers, the casual cruelty of it. I don't need you anymore. I thought about 6 months of lies. 6 months of her coming home to me after being with him, letting me kiss her, letting me believe we were still something worth saving. I swung. The driver's side window exploded in a cascade of safety glass. The alarm started screaming immediately, lights flashing. I reached through, unlocked the door, and placed an envelope on the driver's seat. Then I walked away, calm and steady, back to my truck. I was 2 blocks away before I heard sirens. The envelope contained a single piece of paper. I'd spent an hour on the wording, making sure it was perfect. You passed the bar, but you failed loyalty. This is just the beginning. Someone who knows. Not a threat. Nothing the police could act on. Just a message. I drove home, parked in my garage, and went inside. My hands were steady. My heart was calm. For the first time in months, I felt like I was in control. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. Did you hear? Someone vandalized Ethan's car at the hotel. This city is getting so dangerous. I smiled and typed back, That's terrible. Hope they catch whoever did it. 3 moves ahead. That's how you win at chess. You don't just react to what's in front of you. You plan for what's coming, and you make your opponent react to you. Rachel and Ethan thought they were playing me. They had no idea the game had just begun. The next morning, I went to the shop, like always. Miller Electronics had been my baby for 10 years. Built from a single storefront into a modest operation with 3 employees and contracts with half the small businesses in town. We did security systems, network installation, computer repair, anything that involved wires and circuits. My business partner, Kyle Stevens, was already there when I arrived, coffee in hand, looking at his phone. Did you see this? He turned the screen toward me. Local news site. Vandalism at Riverside Inn. Police investigating. Yeah, Rachel texted me about it last night. I unlocked the front door, flipped the sign to open. Crazy. Kyle followed me inside. The thing is, they're saying it was targeted. Not random. Someone left a note. Huh? I started the coffee maker, kept my voice neutral. What kind of note? They didn't say, but apparently the car belonged to some lawyer, Ethan Price. You know him? I measured coffee grounds carefully. Name sounds familiar. Why? Just weird timing, you know? With Rachel working at a law firm and all. Kyle sat on the counter, watching me. You doing okay, man? With the divorce and everything. Kyle and I had been partners for 7 years. He'd invested in the business when I needed capital to expand, and we'd split profits 50-50 ever since. He was a good guy, solid, the kind of friend who showed up when you needed help moving or jumping a car battery. But something in his voice made me look up. I'm fine, I said. Why? No reason. Just, if you need to talk or whatever. He shifted uncomfortably. Sarah and I were thinking about having you over for dinner this weekend. Get your mind off things. Sarah was his wife. Nice woman, taught elementary school. We'd had dinner at their place a dozen times over the years. Always the 4 of us. Me and Rachel, Kyle, and Sarah. That's nice of you, I said. But I don't want to be the third wheel. You wouldn't be. Actually, Sarah was thinking of inviting some people. Make it a party. He paused. Rachel might be there. Sarah invited her before, everything happened. But if that's weird, it's fine. I poured coffee, handed him a cup. We're adults. We can be in the same room. Cool, yeah, Saturday night then. Kyle took the coffee but didn't drink it. Hey, can I ask you something? Sure. You're really okay with how this all went down? Rachel just leaving like that? I met his eyes. What choice do I have? She doesn't want to be married anymore. I can't force her. I know, but... He trailed off, then shook his head. Never mind. It's not my business. Say it. It just seems fast, that's all. Like one day you guys were fine, and the next she's filing for divorce. Sarah thinks there might be more to it. Like what? Kyle looked uncomfortable. Like maybe there's someone else. I mean, Rachel's been spending a lot of time with people from her firm. There was that partner, the guy whose car got vandalized, Ethan something. Sarah saw them at lunch together a few weeks ago, and she said it looked, I don't know, friendly. I sipped my coffee, let the silence stretch. Then I said, You think my wife is cheating on me? No, I don't know. I'm just saying what Sarah said. He held up his hands. Forget I mentioned it. I'm sure it's nothing. But it wasn't nothing. It was confirmation. If Sarah had seen them together, other people had too. The affair wasn't as secret as Rachel and Ethan thought, which meant I wasn't the only one who could expose them. That night, I went to Murphy's Bar, a dive on the east side where the drinks were cheap and the bartender didn't ask questions. Joy Patterson, had been slinging drinks there for 15 years. She knew everyone and everything. David Miller, she said when I sat down. Haven't seen you in a while. Heard about you and Rachel. Sorry, man. Thanks. I ordered a beer. How's business? Same as always. Busy on weekends, slow on Tuesdays. She slid the beer across the bar. You here to drink or to talk? Can't it be both? Sure, but you got that look. The one people get when they're fishing for information. Joy leaned on the bar, her eyes sharp despite the smile. What do you want to know? I took a drink, considering how much to tell her. Joy was a gossip, but she was also loyal to the people she liked. And I'd always tipped well. You know Ethan Price? I asked. Her expression shifted, just slightly. The lawyer? Yeah, I know him. He comes in here sometimes, usually with clients, throwing money around like it grows on trees. What's he like? Slick, charming when he wants to be. The kind of guy who thinks his smile and his wallet can get him anything. She paused. Why? Just curious. He works with Rachel. Ah. Joy poured herself a shot of whiskey, downed it. You want to know if they're sleeping together? I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Yeah, Joy said. They are. I've seen them here a few times, always in the back booth, always touchy-feely when they think no one's looking, sorry to be the one to tell you. I already knew. I finished my beer. What else do you know about him? Joy studied me for a moment. Then she said, You planning something stupid? Define stupid. The kind of thing that ends with you in jail or in the hospital. Then no, I'm not planning anything stupid. I met her eyes. But I am planning something. She laughed, a sound like gravel in a blender. Good. Ethan Price is a prick. He stiffed one of my waitresses on a tip last month, then tried to grab her ass on his way out. She quit the next day. Joy poured me another beer without asking. What do you want to know? Everything. So she told me. About Ethan's gambling habit. Poker games in the back room of a club downtown, high stakes, usually walking away a winner, but not always. About his reputation at the firm, how he was good at his job, but better at taking credit for other people's work. About the time he'd gotten drunk and bragged about sleeping with a client's wife. "He's untouchable, though," Joy said. "Or he thinks he is. Partner at the firm, comes from money, knows all the right people. The kind of guy who's never faced real consequences for anything." "Everyone faces consequences eventually," I said. Joy smiled. "I like you, David. You need anything else, you let me know." I left Murphy's with a head full of information and a plan starting to form. Ethan Price was arrogant, careless, and protected by a shell of privilege that made him think he was invincible. But every shell has cracks. You just have to know where to hit. Saturday night, Kyle and Sarah's house was packed with people I'd known for years. Friends, neighbors, business contacts. The kind of party where everyone brought a dish and pretended to have a good time while secretly judging everyone else's life choices. Rachel was there, so was Ethan. They weren't together, at least not obviously. Rachel stood by the kitchen island with Jessica, drinking wine and laughing at something on Jessica's phone. Ethan held court in the living room, telling a story that had 3 people hanging on his every word. I walked in carrying a 6-pack of beer, and the room went quiet for just a second. That awkward moment when the divorce guy shows up at a party where his ex-wife is also present. Then Sarah swooped in, all smiles and forced cheerfulness. "David, I'm so glad you came. Here, let me take those." She grabbed the beer, lowered her voice. "Are you okay? I didn't know Rachel was bringing... I invited her before." "It's fine," I said. "Really?" Kyle appeared at my elbow, handed me a beer. "Come on, let's go outside. I want to show you the new grill." We went out to the back deck, where a few other guys were standing around a massive stainless steel grill that probably cost more than my truck. "Nice," I said, because that's what you say about grills. "Yeah, Sarah got it for my birthday." Kyle opened the lid, showed me the interior like it was a spaceship. 4 burners, side sear station, built-in thermometer. We talked about grills and football and nothing important for 20 minutes. Then one of the other guys, Tom, I think someone's cousin, said, "So David, how you holding up? Divorce is rough, man." "I'm managing." "Rachel seems to be doing well," Tom continued, oblivious to Kyle's warning look. "She's inside talking about some big case she's working on. Must be nice, finally using that law degree." "Yeah," I said. "Must be." "And that guy she came with, Ethan, he a friend of yours?" "Nope." "Huh. He seems pretty friendly with her." Tom took a long drink of his beer. "If you know what I mean." I knew exactly what he meant. Everyone at this party knew. They were all watching, waiting to see how I'd react. Would I make a scene? Would I leave? Would I confront them? I did none of those things. Instead, I smiled and said, "Good for her. She deserves to be happy." The conversation moved on, but I could feel their eyes on me, their pity and curiosity mixing into something ugly. Inside, through the sliding glass door, I could see Rachel laughing at something Ethan said. He touched her arm, casual and possessive. She leaned into him, just slightly. They thought they were being subtle. They had no idea how obvious they were. I finished my beer and went back inside to get another. The kitchen was crowded, so I had to squeeze past people to get to the cooler. That's when I heard Jessica's voice, low and sharp. "I'm just saying, you need to be more careful. People are talking." "Let them talk," Rachel said. "I'm divorced. I can see whoever I want." "You're not divorced yet, and Ethan's a partner at your firm. If this blows up, it could affect your career." "It won't blow up. David doesn't even suspect." I froze, my hand on the cooler lid. "Are you sure?" Jessica asked. "Because Sarah said he's been asking questions. And that thing with Ethan's car? That was random vandalism. The police said so. Random vandalism with a note that said something about loyalty. Come on, Rachel." "David's not smart enough to pull something like that." Rachel's voice was dismissive. "He's too busy feeling sorry for himself." I straightened up slowly, beer in hand, and turned around. Rachel and Jessica were standing 5 feet away, their backs to me. Neither of them had noticed me. "Besides," Rachel continued, "even if he did suspect, what's he going to do? He signed the papers. It's over." "I still think you should be more careful," Jessica said. "David's not as stupid as you think. Remember, he built that business from nothing. That takes brains. It takes luck and timing. Trust me, I lived with him for 8 years. He's not going to be a problem." I walked past them, close enough that they should have noticed me. Rachel glanced up, saw me, and her face went carefully blank. "David," she said, "I didn't know you were here." "Kyle invited me. It's his house." I opened the beer, took a long drink. Nice party. Yes, very nice. She exchanged a look with Jessica. How have you been? Great. Business is good. I'm thinking about expanding, actually, opening a second location. This was a lie, but she didn't know that. How about you? How's the new job? It's wonderful. Challenging, but wonderful. And your mentor, Ethan? He treating you well? Her eyes narrowed just slightly. He's been very helpful. I bet. I smiled. Well, I should go say hi to some people. Good to see you, Rachel. Jessica. I walked away before either of them could respond, my heart pounding but my face calm. Behind me, I could hear their whispered conversation starting up again. Not smart enough. Too busy feeling sorry for himself. Not going to be a problem. We'd see about that. I found Ethan in the living room, still holding court. He was talking about a case he'd won, something involving corporate contracts and loopholes. The people around him were nodding, impressed. I walked up to the group, beer in hand. Sorry to interrupt. Ethan Price, right? He turned, and for just a second I saw calculation in his eyes. Then the smile snapped into place. That's right. And you are? David Miller. I'm Rachel's husband. Ah. The smile didn't waver. Nice to meet you. Rachel's told me a lot about you. Funny, she hasn't mentioned you at all? I took a drink. But I've been hearing your name a lot lately. You're a partner at Hartley & Associates? I am. Must be a good job, nice car, nice clothes. I gestured at his suit, which probably cost more than my monthly mortgage. What kind of law do you practice? Corporate, contracts, mergers, that sort of thing. He was still smiling, but his eyes had gone cold. What do you do, David? I run an electronics business, security systems mostly. It's not as glamorous as law, but it pays the bills. I paused. Actually, we do a lot of work for businesses around here, including some law firms. Might be we've done work for Hartley & Associates. Possibly. We have excellent security. I'm sure you do. I finished my beer. Well, nice meeting you, Ethan. Enjoy the party. I walked away, leaving him standing there with a confused look on his face. Behind me, I could hear someone ask him how he knew Rachel. Oh, we work together, he said smoothly. She's a brilliant young lawyer, going places. I went back outside, where Kyle was flipping burgers on his expensive grill. You okay? He asked. You look like you want to hit something. I'm fine. I watched through the glass door as Ethan rejoined Rachel and Jessica. They were talking, heads close together, probably discussing me. Actually, Kyle, can I ask you something? Sure. You still have that friend who works at the courthouse? The one who helped us with that permit issue last year? Yeah, Mike, why? I might need some public records pulled. Nothing illegal, just stuff that's available to anyone who asks. Would he be willing to help? Kyle studied me for a moment. What kind of records? Property records, business filings, that kind of thing. I met his eyes. I'm not doing anything crazy, Kyle. I just want to know what I'm dealing with in the divorce. It was a lie, but a plausible one. Kyle nodded slowly. Yeah, okay. I'll give you his number. He flipped a burger. You sure you're okay, man? You seem different. I'm fine, I said. I'm just tired of being the guy everyone feels sorry for. That night, after the party, I sat in my truck outside Kyle and Sarah's house and watched Rachel and Ethan leave together. They didn't kiss goodbye, too public, but the way they looked at each other said everything. I pulled out my phone and started making notes. Everything I'd learned, everything I'd observed. The puzzle pieces were starting to come together, and the picture they formed was damning. Rachel thought I wasn't smart enough to be a problem. Ethan thought he was untouchable. They were both wrong, and they were about to find out just how wrong. Monday morning, I called Mike at the courthouse. He was a clerk in the records department, a guy who'd helped Kyle and me navigate the bureaucratic nightmare of business permits and licenses over the years. David, hey, he said when he picked up. Kyle said you might call. What do you need? I'm looking into some public records, property ownership, business filings, court records. All public stuff, nothing shady. Whose records? Ethan Price, and his law firm, Hartley & Associates. There was a pause. This about your divorce? Indirectly. I just want to know what I'm dealing with. Okay. Give me a couple days. I'll pull what I can. 2 days later, Mike called me back. You got a pen? Because this is interesting. I grabbed a notebook. Go ahead. Ethan Price. Owns his house outright, no mortgage. Bought it 5 years ago for $800,000, probably worth over $1 million now. No liens, no judgments. Drives a BMW registered in his name. Clean credit, at least as far as I can see from public records. Sounds perfect. Yeah, except for one thing. He's got a civil suit filed against him from 3 years ago. breach of contract settled out of court, and there's another one from last year, same thing. Both sealed, so I can't see the details, but the pattern's interesting. What kind of pattern? The kind where someone keeps getting sued and keeps settling quietly, makes you wonder what he's hiding. Mike shuffled papers. As for the law firm, Hartley and Associates is a standard partnership. 6 partners, 20 associates, clean record. But here's the thing. Ethan's not listed as a full equity partner. He's a junior partner, which means he doesn't have a full ownership stake. What's the difference? Money and power. Junior partners make good money, but they're not calling the shots. And they can be voted out if the senior partners decide they're a liability. I wrote this down, my mind racing. So if Ethan did something that embarrassed the firm, he'd be vulnerable. Yeah, Mike paused. David, what are you planning? Nothing illegal. That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got right now. I thanked him and hung up. That afternoon, I went back to Murphy's bar. Joy was behind the counter, and when she saw me, she poured a shot of whiskey without being asked. You look like you need this, she said. I drank it. I need information. About? Ethan Price's gambling. You said he plays poker downtown. Where? Joy hesitated. David, those games are serious. High stakes, dangerous people. You don't want to get involved. I'm not going to play. I just want to watch. Why? Because I need to know if he's as good as he thinks he is. She studied me for a long moment. Then she wrote an address on a napkin. Thursday nights, 10 p.m. Tell them Joy sent you, but David, be careful. These people don't mess around. Thursday night, I drove to an address on the industrial side of town. The building looked abandoned from the outside. Broken windows, graffiti, the whole urban decay aesthetic. But inside, through a reinforced door and past a guy who looked like he ate nails for breakfast, was a fully furnished poker room. 10 tables, all full. Smoke hung in the air despite the no-smoking laws. Money changed hands with the casual ease of people who had too much of it. I found Ethan at a table in the back, playing Texas Hold'em with 5 other men. His pile of chips was impressive, and he had that same confident smile he'd worn at the party. I watched for an hour. Ethan was good. Not great, but good. He knew when to fold, when to bluff, when to push, but he was also reckless. He took chances that didn't pay off, betting big on mediocre hands because he was used to winning. And he was losing. Not badly, but steadily. By the time I left, his chip stack had shrunk by half. I drove home with a new piece of the puzzle. Ethan liked to gamble, and he wasn't as good at it as he thought, which meant he probably had debts, which meant he had vulnerabilities. The next morning, I went to see Sam at the gym. I need to learn how to fight, I said. Sam looked up from the heavy bag he was adjusting. You know how to fight. I've been teaching you for 5 years. No, I know how to hit a bag. I need to learn how to actually fight someone. Someone specific? Maybe. Sam sighed. David, whatever you're planning, violence isn't the answer. I'm not planning to hurt anyone, but I need to be able to defend myself, and I need to look like I can. Look like you can? Intimidation? Confidence? The kind of thing that makes someone think twice before messing with you. Sam studied me for a long moment. Then he said, All right, but we do this my way. No shortcuts, no ego. You want to learn to fight, you learn the right way. For the next 2 weeks, I trained harder than I ever had. Sam taught me how to move, how to read an opponent, how to take a hit and keep going. It wasn't about being tough. It was about being smart. Fighting's not about strength, Sam said one afternoon, after I'd spent an hour sparring with him. It's about control. You control yourself, you control the situation. And if I can't control the situation, then you make them think you can. Half of fighting is in the head. You make someone believe you're dangerous. They'll back down without you ever throwing a punch. I thought about that as I drove home, my ribs aching from where Sam had landed a body shot. Control, making people believe things. I was getting good at that. 3 weeks after the party at Kyle's house, I got a call from Rachel's lawyer. The divorce was moving forward, and they wanted to schedule mediation to discuss the division of assets. I showed up at the law office downtown, not Hartley and Associates, but a different firm, wearing my best suit. Rachel was already there with her lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia, who looked like she ate opposing counsel for breakfast. Mr. Miller, Patricia said, shaking my hand, thank you for coming. This shouldn't take long. We've prepared a proposed division of assets that we think is fair to both parties. She slid a folder across the table. I opened it and read through the documents. Rachel would get the house, which made sense since I'd been living in an apartment above the shop for the past month. I'd get my business and my truck. We'd split the savings account 50-50. This seems reasonable, I said. Patricia looked surprised. You're agreeing to the terms? Why wouldn't I? Rachel's right. We're both adults. We can handle this maturely. Rachel, sitting across from me, looked suspicious. You're not going to fight for the house? What would I do with it? You picked it out. You decorated it. It's yours. I signed the documents. Is there anything else? Patricia shuffled papers, clearly thrown by how easy this was. No, that's everything. We'll file these with the court. You should be officially divorced in about 60 days. Great. I stood up, shook Patricia's hand again. Thanks for your time. I walked out, leaving Rachel staring after me with a confused expression. The truth was, I didn't care about the house. I didn't care about the furniture or the savings account. Those were just things. What I cared about was making Rachel and Ethan pay for what they'd done, and you can't do that by fighting over assets in a lawyer's office. That night, I went back to Murphy's bar. Joy saw me coming and already had a beer poured. You look pleased with yourself, she said. I am. I just made my ex-wife very confused. How'd you do that? By giving her everything she wanted. I took a drink. She expected me to fight. Instead, I smiled and signed the papers. Joy laughed. You're playing the long game. The only game worth playing. I leaned on the bar. I need another favor. Of course you do. You know people, right? People who hear things? Maybe. What do you want to know? I want to know if Ethan Price owes anyone money. Gambling debts, loans, anything like that? Joy's expression turned serious. That's dangerous information, David. I'm not going to do anything with it. I just want to know. She didn't believe me, but she nodded anyway. I'll ask around. 3 days later, she called me. Ethan owes $20,000 to a guy named Vincent. He runs the poker games. Ethan's been paying it down, but he's behind on the schedule. How far behind? 2 months. Vincent's not happy about it. What happens if he doesn't pay? Nothing good. Vincent's not the kind of guy who takes non-payment lightly. I thanked her and hung up. Then I sat back and thought about what this meant. Ethan Price, the untouchable lawyer with the perfect life, was in debt to a dangerous man. He was vulnerable, and he didn't know that I knew. I pulled out my notebook and added this to my list. The puzzle was almost complete. I just needed a few more pieces. The next piece came from an unexpected source, Kyle. We were at the shop, going over quarterly numbers, when he said, Hey, I heard something weird the other day. Yeah? You know how Sarah's on the board for that charity gala? The one that raises money for the Legal Aid Society? Sure. Well, Rachel's firm is one of the sponsors, and apparently Rachel's going to be there with Ethan, like as his date. I looked up from the spreadsheet. They're going public? Seems like it. Sarah said Rachel's been telling people they're together, not hiding it anymore. This was interesting. If they were going public, it meant they thought they were safe. It meant they thought I wasn't a threat. When's the gala? I asked. 2 weeks, Saturday night, black tie, fancy hotel, the whole thing. Kyle paused. Sarah wants to know if you want to come. She can get you a ticket. To watch my ex-wife parade around with her new boyfriend? Hard pass. I figured, but I thought I'd ask. Kyle went back to the spreadsheet. You're really okay with all this, because if you need to talk, I'm fine, Kyle. Really. I smiled. Actually, I'm better than fine. I'm great. He didn't look convinced, but he dropped it. That night, I called Sarah directly. David. She sounded surprised. Is everything okay? Yeah, I just wanted to ask you about the gala. Is it too late to get a ticket? You want to come? Why not? It's for a good cause. And I should probably start getting out more, right? Can't hide forever. That's great, David. Really mature of you. She sounded genuinely pleased. I'll get you a ticket. It's $500, though. Is that okay? That's fine. $500 was a lot of money, but this was an investment. Thanks, Sarah. Of course. And David, I'm proud of you. This can't be easy. I hung up and smiled. Sarah had no idea. The gala was at the Grand Riverside Hotel, the fanciest place in the city. I rented a tux, got a haircut, and showed up looking like I belonged there. The ballroom was full of lawyers, judges, politicians, and their spouses. Everyone was dressed to impress, drinking champagne, and pretending to care about legal aid for the poor. I spotted Rachel immediately. She wore a red dress that probably cost more than my rent, her hair done up in some complicated style. Ethan stood beside her in a perfect tuxedo, his hand on the small of her back. They looked like the perfect couple. I grabbed a glass of champagne from a passing waiter and worked the room. I talked to people I barely knew, made small talk about the weather and the economy, and generally acted like a guy who was moving on with his life. Rachel saw me after about 20 minutes. Her face went pale. "David," she said, walking over with Ethan in tow, "what are you doing here?" "Same as everyone else, supporting a good cause." I raised my glass. "Nice dress." "Thank you." She glanced at Ethan, who was watching me with barely concealed hostility. "This is unexpected. Life's full of surprises." I turned to Ethan. "Good to see you again. How's the car?" His jaw tightened. "Fine." "Glad to hear it. Vandalism is such a pain to deal with." I smiled. "Well, I should let you two get back to your evening. Enjoy the gala." I walked away before either of them could respond. For the next hour, I circulated through the crowd, making sure people saw me. I wanted Rachel and Ethan to know I was there, to feel uncomfortable, to wonder what I was planning. Then, during the silent auction, I made my move. Ethan was bidding on a golf package, a weekend at some exclusive resort. I could see him writing down his bid, confident he'd win. I walked up to the table and wrote down a bid that was double his. He saw me do it. Our eyes met. "Really?" he said. "It's for charity." I smiled. "Unless you want to outbid me?" He wrote down a new number. I doubled it again. "David, this is ridiculous." "Is it? I thought we were supporting a good cause." I wrote down another bid, this one high enough that people nearby started to notice. "Your turn." Ethan's face was red now. He wrote down a number that was clearly more than he wanted to spend. I wrote down one more bid, then walked away. He didn't follow me. He stood there, staring at the paper, probably calculating whether his ego was worth the money. In the end, he didn't outbid me. I won the golf package for 3 times what it was worth. I didn't care. It wasn't about the golf. Later, during dinner, I was seated at a table with people I didn't know. Across the room, I could see Rachel and Ethan at the head table, surrounded by partners from the firm and their spouses. Rachel kept glancing over at me. I smiled and raised my glass. After dinner, there were speeches. The head of the Legal Aid Society talked about the importance of access to justice. A judge talked about pro bono work. Then, to my surprise, Ethan stood up to speak. "I'm honored to be here tonight," he said, his voice smooth and practiced. "At Hartley & Associates, we believe that everyone deserves quality legal representation, regardless of their ability to pay. That's why I'm proud to announce that our firm is doubling our contribution to the Legal Aid Society this year." Applause filled the room. Ethan smiled, soaking it in. I stood up. Everyone turned to look at me. "I'd like to say something," I announced, loud enough to be heard over the applause. The room went quiet. Rachel's face was a mask of horror. Ethan's smile froze. "I just want to thank everyone here tonight for their commitment to justice," I said, my voice steady and clear. "It's inspiring to see so many people dedicated to doing the right thing. Honesty, integrity, loyalty. These are the values that make our legal system work." I paused, letting the words hang in the air. "And I want to especially thank Hartley & Associates for their generous contribution. It takes real character to stand up and do the right thing, even when it's hard, even when it might cost you something." I raised my glass. "To honesty, the rarest virtue in this room." There was scattered applause, confused but polite. I sat down. Across the room, Rachel looked like she wanted to disappear. Ethan's face was red, his jaw clenched. I'd just called them out in front of everyone who mattered in their professional world, and I'd done it in a way that they couldn't respond to without looking guilty. After the speeches, I found Joy's number in my phone and sent her a text. "Phase 2 complete." She responded immediately. "You're insane. I love it." I left the gala early, before the dancing started. As I walked out, I passed Ethan in the hallway. He was on his phone, his voice low and angry. "I don't care what it takes. I need that money by Friday," he was saying. "No, I can't wait. Just make it happen." Vincent's gambling debt, I realized. Ethan was scrambling. I kept walking, a smile on my face. Everything was falling into place. The next Monday, I got a call from Kyle. "We need to talk," he said. "Can you come to the shop?" His voice was serious, and when I got there, I found him in the back office with our accountant, Margaret. "What's going on?" I asked. Kyle looked uncomfortable. Margaret found something weird in our accounts. Margaret, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s, pulled up a spreadsheet on her laptop. Someone's been moving money around, small amounts, but consistent. It's been going on for about 6 months. My stomach dropped. Moving money where? To an account I don't recognize. It's registered to the business, but I never set it up. She looked at Kyle. Did you? No. Kyle turned to me. David, do you know anything about this? No. How much money are we talking about? About $15,000 total. I sat down heavily. $15,000. Not enough to bankrupt us, but enough to hurt. Who has access to the accounts? I asked. Just the three of us, Margaret said. You, Kyle, and me. We all looked at each other. Then Kyle said, Could someone have hacked us? Maybe, but they'd need login credentials. Margaret frowned. I'll call the bank, see if they can trace the transfers. I left the office feeling sick. If someone was embezzling from my business, it meant I'd been blind to more than just my wife's affair. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept running through possibilities. Who had access? Who would do this? Then I remembered something. 6 months ago, right around when Rachel's affair started, Kyle had mentioned that he'd given his login credentials to someone to help with an emergency transfer while he was out of town. I called him. Kyle, remember when you had someone make that emergency transfer? Who did you give your login to? There was a long pause. Sarah. Why? Did she give the credentials to anyone else? I don't think so. David, what's going on? I don't know yet. I'll call you tomorrow. I hung up and sat there, my mind racing. Sarah wouldn't embezzle from us. She was a teacher, for God's sake. She had no reason to steal. Unless she was doing it for someone else. Unless Rachel had asked her to. The next morning, I called Margaret. Can you trace where that money went after it left our account? I'm working on it. The bank's being difficult, but I should have something by end of day. She called me back at 5 p.m. David, you're not going to believe this. The money went to a personal account, registered to Jessica Thornton. Jessica, Rachel's best friend, the lawyer who'd been whispering warnings at the party. I thanked Margaret and hung up. Then I sat there, feeling the pieces click into place. This wasn't just about an affair. This was bigger. Jessica had been embezzling from my business, probably with Rachel's knowledge. They'd been planning this for months, systematically weakening me financially while Rachel positioned herself for the divorce. And Kyle's wife Sarah had been the unwitting accomplice, giving them access to our accounts. I should have been furious. Instead, I felt cold, calculating. They'd made a mistake, they'd left a trail, and now I had leverage. I called Mike at the courthouse. I need you to pull some more records. Everything you can find on Jessica Thornton. What am I looking for? Anything that doesn't add up. Financial records, property records, court cases, anything. 2 days later, Mike called back. Jessica Thornton has been busy. She's got 3 civil suits pending against her, all related to mishandling client funds. And there is a bar complaint filed 6 months ago. It's still under investigation. What kind of complaint? Misappropriation of funds. A client accused her of stealing money from their settlement. Bingo. Jessica wasn't just embezzling from me. She was doing it to her own clients. She was desperate for money, and she dragged Rachel into her scheme. I called Joy. I need one more favor. You're going to owe me a lot of drinks after this, she said. Put it on my tab. I need you to spread some information. Quietly, just let it slip in conversation. What information? I told her about Jessica's bar complaint and the pending lawsuits. Make sure it gets back to people at Hartley and Associates, especially the senior partners. You're going nuclear. They started this. I'm just finishing it. A week later, the rumor mill was in full swing. I heard from 3 different people that Jessica was under investigation by the state bar, that her clients were suing her, that she might be disbarred, and I heard that Hartley and Associates had started asking questions about Rachel's association with Jessica. The dominoes were falling. Then Kyle came to me, his face pale. Sarah told me something. She said Rachel asked her to transfer money from our business account to Jessica. She said it was for a loan, that Jessica was having financial trouble. When was this? 6 months ago. Sarah didn't think anything of it. She thought she was helping a friend. Kyle looked sick. David, I'm so sorry. If I'd known... It's not your fault. Sarah didn't know what she was doing. What do we do now? We file a police report. We go to the bank. We get our money back. I met his eyes. And then we make sure everyone knows exactly who's responsible. We filed the report that afternoon. The police took our statement, examined the records Margaret had compiled, and opened an investigation. 3 days later, Jessica Thornton was arrested for embezzlement. Rachel called me that night, her voice shaking. David, did you do this? Do what? Jessica's been arrested. They're saying she stole money from your business. She did, The police have the evidence. You had her arrested? No, Rachel. Her own actions got her arrested. I just reported a crime. I paused. Did you know what she was doing? Silence. Rachel, did you know? She said it was a loan. She said she'd pay it back. So you did know. You knew she was stealing from me, and you didn't say anything. I didn't think. No, you didn't think. You just assumed I was too stupid to notice. My voice was cold now. How much of it did you get, Rachel? How much of my money did Jessica give you? None. I didn't take any of it. But you knew. You knew, and you let it happen. She started crying. David, please, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Yes, you did. You meant for all of it. You and Jessica and Ethan, you all thought you could use me and throw me away. I took a breath. Well, guess what? I'm still here, and I'm not done. I hung up. The next day, the story hit the local news. Attorney arrested for embezzlement. Jessica's mugshot was plastered across every website and newspaper in the city, and because Rachel's name was mentioned in the police report as someone who had knowledge of the crime, her name was in the articles too. By the end of the week, Hartley and Associates had placed Rachel on administrative leave, pending an internal investigation. Ethan tried to distance himself from the whole thing, but the damage was done. His association with Rachel, combined with his gambling debts and his reputation for taking credit for others' work, made him vulnerable. The senior partners at the firm started asking questions about his judgment, about his professionalism, about whether he was a liability. I heard all of this from Joy, who heard it from people who knew people. The gossip network in this city was better than any intelligence agency. You've destroyed them, Joy said one night at the bar. Rachel's career is over. Jessica's going to jail. Ethan's hanging on by a thread. Good, I said. They deserve it. What now? Now I finish it. The final piece came together on a Thursday night. I was at the gym, working the heavy bag when Sam came over. You've got a visitor, he said. I turned around. Ethan Price stood in the doorway, still in his suit, looking completely out of place. Can we talk? He asked. I unwrapped my hands. Sure, outside. We went out to the parking lot. Ethan looked nervous, which was satisfying. I want to make a deal, he said. A deal. I know you're behind all of this. The vandalism, the rumors, Jessica's arrest. You've been orchestrating it from the beginning. That's a serious accusation. Can you prove it? No, but I know. He ran a hand through his hair. Look, I get it. You're angry. Rachel and I, we handled things badly, but this has gone far enough. Has it? I'll pay you, whatever you want. Just stop. I laughed. You think this is about money? Isn't it always? No, Ethan. This is about consequences. You and Rachel thought you could treat me like garbage and walk away clean. You were wrong. She doesn't love you anymore, David. You need to accept that and move on. I have moved on. This isn't about getting her back. This is about making sure you both understand that actions have consequences. Ethan's face hardened. You're pathetic, wasting all this time and energy on revenge. What's it going to get you? Satisfaction. I stepped closer. You know what your problem is, Ethan? You've never had to fight for anything. Everything's been handed to you. Money, job, women. You think you're untouchable. And you think you're what? Some kind of hero? No, I'm the villain, and I'm better at it than you'll ever be. He swung at me. I saw it coming. Sam had taught me well, and I dodged easily. His fist whistled past my ear. Then I hit him. One clean punch to the gut, the way Sam had shown me. Not hard enough to cause real damage, but hard enough to make a point. Ethan doubled over, gasping. That's for the last 8 years, I said. Now get out of here before I decide to make it worse. He stumbled to his car and drove away. I watched him go, my knuckles aching, feeling more alive than I had in months. The next morning, I got a call from Kyle. You need to see this. I went to the shop. Kyle handed me his phone, showing me a video on social media. It was security footage from the gym parking lot. Someone had posted it with the caption, "Lawyer gets knocked out by small business owner." The video showed Ethan throwing the first punch, then me hitting him back. It had already been shared hundreds of times. Who posted this? I asked. Sam. He texted me this morning, said you might want to see it. I called Sam. Why did you post that? Because Ethan Price is a bully, and bullies need to be exposed. Sam's voice was calm. Also, you were defending yourself. Everyone can see that. He threw the first punch. The video went viral in the city. By noon, it had thousands of views. By evening, the local news had picked it up. Prominent attorney involved in parking lot altercation. Ethan's reputation, already damaged, took another hit. The senior partners at Hartley & Associates called an emergency meeting. 2 days later, Ethan Price was fired. Rachel called me again. "Are you happy now? You've ruined everything." "I didn't ruin anything, Rachel. You did. You and Ethan and Jessica. You made your choices. We're not the villains here, David. You are. You're the one who can't let go." "You're right. I am the villain. But you know what? I'm okay with that," I smiled, even though she couldn't see it. "Because at least I'm honest about what I am. Can you say the same?" She hung up. That night, I went to Murphy's bar. Joy poured me a drink without asking. "You did it," she said. "You actually did it." "Yeah. How do you feel?" I thought about it. Tired, but good. "What now?" "Now I move on, for real this time." Joy raised her glass. "To moving on." "To moving on," I echoed. The next week, I got a call from Margaret. "The bank recovered most of the money Jessica stole. We're getting a check for $12,000. "That's great." "There's more. Kyle and I were talking, and we think you should buy him out." "What?" "He wants to focus on other things, and you've proven you can run this business on your own. We think you should take full ownership." I met with Kyle that afternoon. He looked relieved. "I can't do this anymore, David. The stress, the drama. Sarah and I want to move. Start fresh somewhere else." He slid a paper across the table. "This is my asking price. It's fair." I looked at the number. It was more than fair. It was generous. "You sure about this?" I asked. "Yeah, I'm sure." He smiled. "You deserve it, man. You built this place. It should be yours." We shook hands. 2 weeks later, the papers were signed. Miller Electronics was entirely mine. I changed the name to Miller Security Solutions and hired 2 new employees. Business picked up. Turns out being the guy who stood up to a corrupt lawyer and his cheating wife made me something of a local hero. Rachel's divorce was finalized. She moved to another city, took a job at a smaller firm. I heard she and Ethan weren't together anymore. Apparently being unemployed and in debt wasn't as attractive as being a partner at a law firm. Jessica took a plea deal. She got 2 years probation and had to pay restitution. Her law license was suspended indefinitely. Ethan found work at a firm 3 states away. I heard he was doing insurance defense, the legal equivalent of purgatory. And me? I kept training at Sam's gym. I kept running my business. I kept moving forward. One night, about 6 months after everything fell apart, I was closing up the shop when I found an envelope under the door. Inside was a note. "You were right. Actions have consequences. I'm sorry. R." I stared at it for a long moment. Then I threw it in the trash. Sorry didn't change anything. Sorry didn't undo the lies or the betrayal or the months of pain, but it was an acknowledgement, an admission that I'd won. I locked up the shop and walked to my truck. The city lights flickered in the distance and the air smelled like rain. I'd started this journey as the underdog, the guy everyone felt sorry for. I'd ended it as the villain, the man who'd burned everything down to make a point. But I'd also ended it as the winner, the guy who'd taken control of his life and refused to be a victim. They'd thought they could bury me, but I'd been 3 moves ahead the whole time, and this time I was the one holding all the cards.